Hello, and thanks for joining us today. I'm super excited you can be here. Look, today we are having someone that I'm a huge fan of not just himself personally, but also his company, because they are really the leaders in small business lending. When I think about the top company in this space of lending to small businesses, this is the first one that comes to mind. They are the gigantic 800-pound gorilla in the room because they do such a phenomenal job of servicing their clients. So with us today is Brock Blake. Now, Brock is actually the CEO and founder of Lendio, the nation's leading small business finance solutions provider, really dedicated to making access to capital faster, simpler, and also more transparent for entrepreneurs. So under his leadership, Lendio has helped small businesses secure more than 10 billion, that's with a B, in funding, empowering growth and opportunity access across many different industries. So they're an Inc. 500 company, and he's an Inc. 500 CEO. He's a national keynote speaker. He's a Forbes contributor. He is widely recognized for his impact on the fintech and small business landscape, including being named Utah's Emerging Executive of the Year. Beyond business success, though, he's also deeply committed to building a strong, values-driven company, a good culture, as well as rooted in humility, performance, and service. So through Lendio, Brock actually gives championed global impact. He's also helped provide microloans to underserved entrepreneurs worldwide via Kiva for every loan facilitated on the platform. Brock, you've done so much, I could go on and on, but thanks for joining me today.
That was way too much. I'm glad to be here, Ty, and look forward to the conversation.
Yeah, I love it. I love the impact you've had. I mean, not just on the industry, but all the goodwill that you've done in this space. You've really, I think from everybody I can think about, you are the gigantic in helping the underserved entrepreneurs. But how did you get started? How did you get started in this space?
Yeah, I mean, we are extremely passionate about the underdog and helping small businesses, and you mentioned a couple things there. We're helping Main Street America, restaurant owners and landscapers and dry cleaners get access to capital. We also do, as you said, the Kiva loans. For every loan we fund, we also fund a loan to a entrepreneur in a third world country to help them get their idea off the ground. It may be a $5, $20, $50 loan to buy a goat and sell goat's milk. But we've now funded $5 million of those loans, and that all comes from our Lendio employees who sacrifice a cup of coffee, breakfast, lunch, things like that. So it's coming out of their own paycheck. It goes into a fund, and then we use that to go and fund these entrepreneurs across the world. So, anyways, I am very passionate about entrepreneurship, small businesses, the underdog. I think going back to your question, how did I get started? I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I graduated from BYU. Was trying to figure out what I was going to do. I heard about this entrepreneurial competition that basically said, "Hey, college grads, if you want to be an entrepreneur, come check this out. It's an 8-week boot camp to learn from one of the, state's most innovative entrepreneurial minds." His name was Greg Warnock. He's a venture capitalist. He's been very successful in investing in companies. He was kind of like it's not President Trump. Back in the day, the Donald Trump, the TV show, The Apprentice, it was like teaching. There was 100 applicants. 20 of us went through an 8-week boot camp. And one week it was entrepreneurship. The next week it was marketing. And the next week it was sales. And the next week it was fundraising. And it was a competition plus learning. And at the end of those 8 weeks, he selected 5 that he wanted to work with and gave them each access to $50,000 to get off the ground. And I was one of those 5. And it opened the door for me that, coming from a lower income kind of family, growing up, I didn't have access to capital. And it gave me a path to be able to go start something that I wouldn't have been able to start on my own. How it came to Lendio is I was talking. I had access to $50,000. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know if I was going to start a business or buy a business or whatever. So I just went out and started talking to business owners, and I realized that almost every business owner I spoke to, the biggest challenge that they had was getting access to capital. They all needed capital to hire employees. to buy equipment, to open a new location, and they didn't know how to do it. And it's not like I was an expert, but I'm like, this is a big problem. And so let's use that capital and see if we can go and build something to help solve that for these customers.
So I love that. I love every part of it. Do you still stay in touch with him?
Yeah, Greg, oddly enough, so Greg was my first capital in because, 50,000. And then, he runs a venture fund. And, we went and we kind of got off the ground and we built the business. And it was like 12 years later that we came back around to his venture fund, pitched them, and they ended up leading, one of our rounds. It was probably a $30 million round. They probably put in 10 to 15. And so now I've lost I for a while there. I didn't stay in close touch with Greg, but now that they've reinvested in the business at a later stage, we're tied at the hip, and he's been a great champion and mentor of mine. And I'm looking forward to the day where at some point we'll take the company public or have an exit, and yeah, hopefully deliver a really nice return to the individual who took a chance on me.
Oh, that's so cool. That's a great story. I like how it comes full circle like that. So when you got in to solve the problem of helping small business owners get capital, what did you recognize that the problem was that you kind of put Lendio on the path to be able to solve?
Yeah, I'm to be honest with you, it took us about 7 years to be able to figure out how to solve this problem. And part of that was because, the first we identified the problem was they need to get access to capital. The first solution that we delivered was kind of the predecessor to Lendio, was a company called Funding Universe, which was helping a business connect to angel investors and venture capitalists. And so we built out a site where you could come and you could post your business plan on there, and you would have investors coming and reviewing, kind of like an angel list today. They'd be reviewing your business plan, and then they'd express interest, and we would set up these speed pitching events, kind of like speed dating. You're going table to table to table, pitching your idea to a group of investors. And we were doing this all over the country, and the business was growing, and we got it up to about 10 million in revenue over the first kind of 3, 4, 5 years. And the more we kind of were learning, there was a couple of things that we identified as major challenges. The first major challenge was that most business owners, yes, they needed capital, but the capital source that we were giving them access to, funding from angels and VCs, was the wrong source for most of these businesses. Most of these businesses were not going to get an angel investor or venture capitalist. They didn't need it. They were, as I've talked about, they were Main Street. They were a retail store. They were a roofer, a plumber, a painter, and investors aren't necessarily going in. They can be great cash flow businesses, but they're service businesses or they're Main Street businesses. They're not going to be the next, Claude, Anthropic, OpenAI, ChatGPT, Facebook, Amazon. They're not going to grow at that scale. And so what we realized was, okay, the problem exists, but the solution to the problem is the wrong solution, because we're only able to serve a very, very small percentage of customers. And so it wasn't until, about 5, 6 years later where we started to think about, on nights and weekends, okay, we got all these customers coming in the door. We got to change the way the product that we're delivering, the value that we're delivering to these business owners, and deliver, loans, lines of credit cards, SBA loans, working capital. And we changed the name to Lendio and kind of restarted. And that's when it really started to take off. Before that was just a slog, banging our head against the wall all the time. everything was kind of held together. We didn't have a lot of technology. And so, it took us a while to kind of figure it out, and then we did, and then since then we've had really, really significant growth.
Yeah, I love that. Out of curiosity, how did you come up with the name Lendio?
Great question. Trent and Trent's my co-founder. We've been together for about, 15, 20 years. He, we were at a lunch at In-N-Out. We were trying to figure out, it can't be funding universe. We need to do something more lending, and we ended up seeing that this domain was available and that we could go buy, and we just thought it was a perfect name. And so somehow we kind of came across the domain and the name, and it stuck.
That's cool. It's cool. And many, decades plus later, it's still like it's pretty much a known name for most small businesses. When you got into the debt side of things, what did you determine was the problem there that where you, because you've accumulated the perfect combination from my perspective of funding products under one umbrella without making that complicated, which is something I've never seen anybody else successfully do. So how did you look at the debt problem to start determining what kind of funding products to put under your umbrella to help the majority of people that you're helping today?
Yeah, I mean, clearly it was an evolution for us. You never kind of figured it out right out of the gate. But, at first we were so focused on adding banks, and banks were not great at underwriting, and they were more like, okay, we'll buy leads from you. And so it first started as kind of a lead gen. We had multiple banks and customers come in, we'd qualify them for a certain lender. I didn't ever like the lead gen experience because, you sign up and then all of a sudden now you're getting not bombarded, but reached out to by lenders and whatnot. So that didn't settle well with me. And then we started there started to be this kind of age of new lenders. The fintech lenders, the on deck capital, the fund box, and others like that, that started to come online in a big way. And we thought, well, we can actually, if we can get their credit policy, who they lend to, who are they going to say yes to, then what we can do is we can add a bunch of lenders. We'll have one person on our within our team that's kind of the white glove, loan expert. So we'll gather the application, we'll submit it to the various lenders. They will respond back to us with their rates and offers and terms, and then we'll present them to the business owner in one kind of unified fashion for them to be able to comparison shop. And it was mostly done through just like a loan officer. And once we kind of made that tweak, then the customer experience improved dramatically because now they're like, oh, I have my one loan officer that I'm working with, and they're giving me multiple options. And so, we started to build off that. And we started to go and add more lenders and different types of loan products and saying, okay, which customers, when they're coming to Lendio, are not getting funded today? And what's the profile of that segment of customers? Okay, is there a loan product out there that would say yes to those customers? And then if so, we'd go find them and hey, we have a segment of customers that are underserved. Lender, we think you can offer loans to those customers. And over time, you start to build out this suite of, about 75 lenders across SBA loans and lines of credit and term loans and working capital loans and equipment loans, so that you have this breadth of options for these business owners. And we kind of went away from banks for a bit, and then it started to come full circle again, and we started bringing banks back on. And over time, we've kind of been trying to perfect that experience. Like, when do we use technology where we can automate the experience and handle, many thousands of customers, tens of thousands of customers? And when do you need to use a human to have that human touch where, hey, Ty, I'm gonna really, I'm gonna make sure we're taking good care of you, and we're gonna answer your questions. We're gonna make sure you understand your rates and your terms and different options that you have here. And by the way, and if you don't like that rate and we need to go and try and negotiate, I'm gonna be your advocate and go to that lender and say, hey, lender, if I can get this rate down by 2 points, Ty's ready to take this deal. And so this is where we kind of started to scale around that we call high tech. So a lot of the technology, and then also high touch where appropriate. It's been a journey, and you said some numbers earlier. It's actually now up to about 600,000 small businesses for $16 billion in loans that we've funded. So it's a lot of businesses across the U.S. that we've had an impact on.
Wow, $16 billion in loans.
Yeah.
What I think about Lendio, what I love the most, there's so many things, but I love some the most is that I think the problem is that there's so many options of funding out there. But if I go to any number of the different sources that you mentioned there, they only offer one or two types of funding vehicles. And then they
Yep.
don't clearly say at all on their website, like what it takes to qualify. So like if
Yeah.
revenue is the trigger, you don't know that. Or if credit's the trigger,
Right.
you don't know that. And so then people apply and they get so frustrated because they get denied and think they can't get funding. But the reality is they're just applying for the wrong product,
That's
being
correct.
from that one source. And so what I love about Lendio is that you've brought together like all of the best of the best of the funding options out there. So one person can talk to you and come into your ecosystem and then have access to a plethora of different funding programs that can work for them based on all different types of scenarios. So give me an idea, like if I'm a small business owner coming to Lendio, like what kind of access do I have to lending with this abundance of different funding programs that you offer?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have, every option available to you from, the best SBA products that are on the market to, for the customers that maybe have a tough time with their personal credit score and, lower cash flow. And you might be, a lender might look at you as subprime. We're going to have everything in between, and from lines of credit to equipment loans and so on. And so, I like to kind of guide a small business owner. A lender will look at a small business owner through a lens of three things. They're going to look at credit, so personal and business credit score. They're going to look at your cash flow, and they're going to look at your collateral. And if you can check the box and say, hey, I've got great credit, great cash flow, and great collateral, you're going to be a low risk applicant and you're going to have the best rates and the best terms, right? Now, if you only have two of those three, if you have, good cash flow and good credit, then you're going to be a medium risk and you're going to have medium rates, right? Mid rates. And then if you only have one of those three, say you only have, good cash flow or whatever, you're probably going to be a little bit higher risk. Now, and some of those, there are kind of three legs to a stool. So, if you're really strong in one area, you might, that might kind of make up for some of the weaknesses in the others. But generally, that's how lenders kind of look at it. And so I think it's important for a business owner. Like, I think just about any business owner can qualify for a loan, unless you're like, a true startup, no cash flow, and you have no business credit established and you have low personal credit. That's a segment of customer that's probably at today is not going to be able to get approved, may need to find other places, friends or family, to get capital off the ground or some sort of credit card or something like that. But otherwise, you're probably going to have options available to you. And it may be that you need to start with a product that you're not as excited about today and to add and prove that you're credit worthy, right? And establish some of that business credit and establish your payment history, build up some of your cash flow. And over time, you're gonna be able to graduate to a different product that's larger loan size, lower rate, and you can continue to graduate. We have business owners who have come back to us, 5, 10, 15 times. And, we're kind of trying to help them through that journey to be able to get to the type of product that they want. Everyone wants an SBA loan. Unfortunately, not everyone qualifies for that, right? And so I think it's important from a business owner perspective to be kind of intellectually honest with yourself around your kind of quality, the assessment of how a lender is going to look at you. And we're going to do our very best to be your advocate to find you the absolute best product that's available to you on the market.
Yeah. I love it. I mean, you definitely you're the best in the business at what you guys do. And I love the way that you combine technology, combine the personal touch, and then add in all of the viable different funding products that are out there to be able to really help somebody be able to oftentimes have more than one funding option available and definitely find the right funding option and even graduate to be able to come back to you again and again to be able to get even better and better funding options. What's the experience like? Like if I'm coming in today through the website, what's the experience like working with Lendio?
Yeah, so first off, it's free for the small business owner. All of our we make money through a lender when a loan funds, right? So we're motivated to help that business owner get approved, but they're not coming out of pocket for that process. You're going to sign up for the experience and go through a simple application process that's all online. So where you're going to tell us a little bit about your business, how long in business, the geographic region. Key to that application process is being able to look at your cash flow data. So you can either upload bank statements, or we have the bank connector that you can put in your credentials, and we'll go pull your last 3 to 6 months of bank transaction data. We're going to do a bunch of analytics around that. We're going to try to understand, okay, is your business growing? Is it declining? Is it seasonal? What are the average number of deposits? So a lot of analysis around your cash flow data. We're also going to do a poll on your personal and business credit. Now it's a soft poll, so it's not going to negatively impact your score. But we're going to try and understand you as an individual. We're going to try and understand the health of the business and any business credit profile you have from a business standpoint. Depending, as you're going through this process, we're trying to identify which products you qualify for. And if you qualify for some of the best products, which would be like an SBA loan or a term loan, those products will require additional information like your personal and business tax returns. So we may be pulling 2 years of personal and 2 years of business. Some products you don't need that. So we may say, oh, well, as of today, you may not qualify for that, so we're not going to necessarily ask for it. So we have this dynamic application that is, as you're going through the process, we're trying to gather information and assess where you're at. As soon as that process is done, we have an algorithm that's looked at this 600,000 businesses that we've funded. And we know which lenders that you qualify for and which ones you don't. So it automatically goes to those lenders, and there's a decision process that happens. They submit us back an offer. And you'll start getting text alerts that say, Ty, hey, you got a new offer. Come check it out. And they don't all come in at once. Some are immediate, some come, over 2 minutes, some are 2 hours, some are 2 days. But you'll start getting notifications that you're getting offers. At that point, you're also going to likely be matched to a loan officer that you can reach out to, or will reach out to you to answer your questions and guide you through the process. So at that point, you're choosing between the loan options that you have, which one is the best fit for you, and trying to navigate through that. You choose a product that you like. We notify the lender, okay, Ty's really interested in this product. They send over the loan agreement via DocuSign. You sign that. There's a couple steps at the end, driver's license and voided check and some other things like that. But pretty much that happens pretty quickly. And I mean, you could get funded same day with a lot of these products. And then once you're funded, you are working directly with a lender on the payoff of that loan. So we're not handling the servicing of the loan, but we are handling the entire experience all the way to the origination of it. And so that's kind of what to expect.
Wow. I mean, it's a really cool process. And I love the fact that a business owner doesn't have to pay to be able to have the assistance they need. I don't understand why you'd even try to go out in the space and navigate it on your own when you have like an advocate like Lendio that can help you through the process, can negotiate on your behalf, can look at where you are and analyze all these different lenders, all these different programs to be able to give you the best options, oftentimes multiple different options. And then instead of you trying to make the decisions on your own, actually help provide guidance from 16 billion in funding to be able to help somebody actually kind of find the right path for them. And then when it's done, it's not done. Then you're continuing the transaction. It sounds like sometimes 5, 10, 15 transactions later, helping the business owner get more and more and more capital. So it's like once they get in with your team, then they have an advocate through the life of their business, through that process you're describing of graduating up to an SBA loan, which is where everybody wants to get to, and then having your team basically assist them every step of the way. I mean, it's interesting that it's so well defined, but yet to talk to you about the history of how it got that way it's pretty cool to hear.
Yeah, a lot of times business owners, they're like, okay, well, I banked with this bank for 10 years, and they go and they go to their local branch and they apply, and a lot of times they get declined, or the bank's like, hey, listen, I don't really have much options for you. And you're thinking, well, I mean, I've banked with this bank for 10 years. If anyone's going to give me a loan, they will. And so if they said no, then I don't have any options. And the reality, people think that a bank is a bank is a bank. They all underwrite the same way, and it's just not the case. There's so many different types of lending institutions out there that underwrite in their unique way, that have different types of loan products that they offer, some that offer lines of credit, some that offer term loans, some that do SBA. And so don't get discouraged by, I went and they didn't have any options for me. Let's evaluate the entire breadth of the loan, universe through our marketplace and see what we can find for you.
Yeah. I love it. I love your philosophies. Where do you see Lendio going? Like, I mean, AI's changed a lot of things. So how do you see that impacting the industry? And then what are you doing in the future? Like, what does Lendio look like in the future?
Yeah. Yeah, as you and I were kind of talking about, it's an interesting market right now with AI kind of taking over so much of our I guess our interactions with technology and so on. Um, we are extremely excited about how AI can be helpful in this process. The good thing about lending is that it's formulaic, meaning it's always when a lender is going to say yes, it's always 1 + 1 = 2. It's never, it doesn't change, consistently. And so, but it is complex, that especially with us when we've got 75 lenders. Every single lender has different data that they're looking at. Some want bank statements, some don't. Some want tax returns, some don't. Some, need accounts receivable, statement or debt schedule, and so there's a lot of complexity, and all of that means is right for AI to be able to go in and take this complex set of data and simplify it. And so, our hope is that we can leverage AI to be able to take something that feels overwhelming to a customer and make it really easy. And so we've implemented, a bunch of different things. I'll talk about a couple of them. The first one is we implemented an agent that is focused on the front end of the experience, gathering the application. So let's say you come in, Ty, and you submit, 3 months of bank statements. Well, and you gave us January, February, and March. Well, we're in May, the end of May, right? And uh, we actually needed April to be able to make a decision. Well, we have now AI. We used to be able to use a human to do that. We were to review that and then reach back out to you and say, hey, Ty, hey, thanks for January, February, March, but we need April, and we actually need month to date for May too. And now we can use AI to do that. We can use AI to be able to look at the statements you sent over and say, okay, we still are missing April. And then, an agent can reach out via text, and we make it known it's an agent. Ty, you're missing April bank statements and we need May. You can respond back via text, gathers a document, reviews it automatically, says, oh, yep, this is accurate. Okay, we're good to go. We can submit it. So, having AI be able to, the agent to communicate to you, the agent to be able to review the docs, the agent to be able to evaluate whether the document package is fully kind of thorough and complete, like that's all been launched in the last few weeks, and we're testing, and it's gone really, really well. I think the next thing we can think about is, the moment where you've got multiple offers in front of you. And as a business owner, you're like, well, I'm good at running my restaurant, or I'm good at, being an electrician, but I'm not normally just evaluating loan products all the time, right? And so this is a little bit overwhelming for me. And so there's an opportunity for us to be able to insert an AI advisor there, right? Where again, sometimes that might be a human if you want, and it may be, well, you want to interact with an AI advisor to be able to say, like, okay, help me understand the difference between lender A, lender B, lender C, a little bit of a merchant interview, and so we can use AI to be able to kind of, okay, Ty, based on what you told me, you're looking to buy a pizza oven, and this lender is has the best product for what you're trying to solve for, and so I think there's some opportunity there that's customer facing. That's where we're using AI, and obviously using AI to be able to code and to innovate faster. A lot of what we're doing right now is we are building, and this is probably getting too technical. I'm probably too bored, so I'll shorten it up. But we're building a lot of technology for banks. A lot of times banks want to lend, but they've always done it with just humans, and it's costly and it's expensive and it's slow. And so what that means is banks have been like, I'm not going to really underwrite a $50,000 loan and make money at it. So I'm gonna move upstream and do $1 million loan. And so they've kind of neglected Main Street America, but we providing technology to automate the decisioning for that bank. And there's a lot that we can use AI to be able to kind of continue to build that out. Now, all that being said, so I'm very much like all in on leveraging these technology and tools to be able to create a better customer experience, do it faster at scale. But we cannot lose the human touch. We believe strongly in that human to human connection, the empathy. People, there's some aspects they love the conversational aspects of AI, and sometimes people are like, this is too much for me. I just want to talk to someone. And so, it's definitely a balance, but I'm really excited about where we're at and what the future looks like on how we can help more small businesses with the new technologies that are out there.
I love it, Brock. I love where you've been. I love where you're going. So many people watching this that are looking to be able to get capital on their main street. They're looking to get capital to be able to take their business to the next level. What should they do to get in touch with your team and to start the application process?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's free. Come to lendio.com. We've got a ton of content on there. We've got calculators. We've got information on the different loan products. Fill out an application. It doesn't hurt to be able to see what loan options you have available. Talk to one of our advisors, our funding experts, to be able to kind of help you through that process and see if there's something that's a good fit for you.
I love it. Thanks for coming on with us today.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Ty. Appreciate you.
You got it. So listen, if you're watching this, make sure you go to lendio.com. When you go to lendio.com, just click apply now at the very top of the page, or right below it, you'll see apply. And it's a really simple, easy process to apply. What I love about Lendio are so many different things, but two of the things that I think stand out the most above everything else is that as you hear me talk all the time, the problem with lending is not a lack of options. The problem is being able to get access to all the options that are out there. Lendio is the absolute number one top, without a doubt, unquestionable best in the business of bringing all of the products into one place so you can get into one application and get access to all of the viable funding programs that are out there in one place. Lendio is the best at that, but Lendio is also the best at combining technology with human touch. And that is something since their inception 15 years ago, they have been the best at. And now when you talk about AI and everybody's talking AI, they're incorporating, they were doing things well before people even thought about AI that were so far advanced on the technological side, while still keeping the human touch. And they are the best in the business as that. So you combine it, you've got somebody that is fast, you've got somebody that is funding that is easy, you've got a team of people that is there to help you, that is there to help you from the beginning stages of your business all the way beyond, and having access to all funding in one place, and it doesn't cost you anything to work with them. As a matter of fact, it probably saves you money because they're using their power to go out and get you better terms than you'll ever get on your own. And you get it all for free in one place, which is Lendio.com. So make sure you go to Lendio.com. They've got a lot of tools, but the most important thing you want to do is click to apply, go through their simple process, and you're talking in a very short period of time with one of their experts actually diving into all the funding options that are available for you. So make sure you check it out today at Lendio.com. Thanks for tuning in. Take care. Have a great day.